Hello, social blueprinters. Welcome. Today we are interviewing Meg Duhamel, an emerging artist. But before we do, a reminder to please go to thesocialblueprint.org.au to see all the upcoming events in our community and check out all the resources that our community has to offer. Welcome, Meg.
Hi.
Your story, I think, is quite inspiring, especially for people who are wondering what direction to take. And I think your message is going to be really wonderful. Anyway, where did you go to school, Meg?
I went to Bethel Ladies College throughout my entire life.
Gee.
Yes,
okay.
a very Jewish education.
Yes, did not expect that. And then what did you do after school?
So after school, I did a gap year. And then from that, I studied interior architecture and design at Monash Uni. And I absolutely loved the course. It was super creative and exciting. And yeah, it got me started off into a really creative and exciting path.
And then what did you work in that field?
Yeah, so straight out after uni, I think that was 4 years of studying, and then I went into an interior architecture job at an architecture firm in the city that I was super excited to start. I thought that this, was kind of the dream job. It was in a field that I was really excited about. It was based around children, schools, facilities, and that kind of design, which I've always been passionate about. And I was there for a bit over a year. I loved working there, and I got a lot of experience from being there, but something inside of me kind of was like, this isn't for you. There's something more. And there was a voice that kind of led me onto this path.
And that voice, what made you listen to it? Was there discomfort? Were you not sleeping at night? Were there signs?
Yeah, there was definitely signs. I think I kind of always, since I was little, was like, I want to be an artist. I want to do something really creative. And as much as working in the architecture job was creative to a degree, it wasn't fulfilling that painting, hands-on creative element that I wanted, the autonomy as well. And yeah, I guess I'd sit at my desk and I'd listen to podcasts about artists and people starting their own things, and all these exciting things happen. And then that inner voice over time just got stronger and stronger and was like, there's something more. And just you kind of need to listen to yourself, and also you don't want to regret this. Like, I'm young, I was living at home, it was relatively easy at that stage of life. I know it's a lot harder for people who are older, but I was like, this is my chance. And I think it was harder for me to sit in the discomfort, as you said.
Yes.
And be like, and take the chance of regretting it long term. And rather to be like, let's take the chance. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And I think that's what ultimately pushed me to make that decision.
Yes, you did it at a good stage of life. But what about feedback from other people when you did it? Did you feel support, or did you feel people were thinking, you're crazy?
I definitely got a bit of both. Some people at work, or a few of my friends, when I told them, I think they were a bit like, oh, what, you kind of just started in that field, like a few more years. But mostly as a whole, from my community, from definitely my family, from a lot of my friends, were really, really supportive. My parents were always taught me when we were little to always believe in ourselves, grow up, we could be whatever we wanted to be. And that voice, I think, has always been strong inside me because of being told that since I was little. So they were super supportive. They said, you know what, give it a go. You can, like, I reckon, you'll see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, then you won't go down that path. But my dad also did say, you have a year. He's like, you should put a timeline on this. Like, you can't, not have a job, not make money. And then naturally that voice also was inside me. I told myself, there's a time limit to this. We're going to see if I can give it my all for 1 year and see what I can achieve in that year. And if there's signs and little breadcrumbs along the way of success, or things that I feel like, I can achieve, then I'll go for it and keep going. And otherwise, I could always go back to that job. I did have that safety net of a job that I did enjoy, and
Yes.
a different career path.
So when you decided to pursue your art, how did you market yourself? How did you get started?
Okay, yeah, how I got started. So firstly, actually, when I was working at the architecture firm, I decided to dip my toes into still painting. So I never really stopped painting throughout university. I was always making commissions and painting all these different things on the side. The community, family and friends, they were a huge support. They were buying my artwork. So I always had that small thing going.
Yes.
And then when I was in the other job, I took a day off on Fridays, and that day became like my painting day. So exclusively on a Friday, I would do what I loved. And that also drove me because I realized how much I loved the Friday compared to the other days.
Yes.
So I was like, I want to live every day and wake up and be so excited for what I'm doing, and love the life that I'm living, really. So that little day, I guess, bled into becoming my whole entire life when I decided to resign. And then I started off, I had a spare bedroom in my house. I kind of locked myself in there 9 to 5. I was super regimented and disciplined. And I was like, let's see what I can do in this year. So it kind of started off, as I said, through family and friends commissioning me, doing paintings. And then I realized I had to really develop a niche and a specific style in order to turn it into a business, because, you know, painting all sorts of things. And as you said, like, what was it that I was going to do? I knew I wanted to paint, but I didn't necessarily know exactly what. So after kind of locking myself in that space and spending a lot of time working on my style, it slowly started to develop, and it all came back to, I realized what I loved to paint and draw as a child was always children. I was obsessed with the idea of childhood and freedom and play and childhood spirit, and just like the memories and beauty of childhood and all those things that come with it, like your fearlessness, you're confident as a kid, you're passionate. So I wanted to encapsulate that and tell children's stories. And I guess also kind of naturally what happened in that year, I approached Save a Child's Heart, who I had volunteered. For anyone that doesn't know, Save a Child's Heart is an organisation that saves children around the world, or from developing countries who have heart defects, and it provides surgery to all these children. Lovely. So I actually lived at a house and volunteered there on my gap year for a little bit. So it was close to my heart, and I knew that there was a CEO in Australia, in Melbourne, and I wanted to work with them. So I made them a few paintings of their children and their stories, and used that as a little bit of a way to, I guess, market myself and gain exposure whilst doing something that was, I guess, bigger than myself and for them, and something I was super passionate about as well. Beautiful. So that kind of led me onto that path that in that year, and then things naturally developed from there.
So did you have to get your commissions? I know you said friends and family. Did people have to come to your home to see those paintings, or did you have a website?
I'm trying to think. I think in that first year, I didn't have a website for the beginning of it because I didn't really have that much work. Like, yes, I had sketchbooks filled with drawings and paintings and that kind of thing, but I didn't feel like I could put that necessarily on a website. So yes, that year was more about me creating a lot of, like, a portfolio of works and developing the style, and I did that with Save a Child's Heart. I also did that with other family friends of their children, gifts when people had birthdays for their children, you know, when someone had a baby, that kind of thing. And then, yeah, slowly.
Do people commission you, like, do they give you a photo of their child and you paint it, or do you do children generally? I'm not sure.
Yeah, so what I ended up finding as my specific niche was encapsulating a family's childhood and their memories. So it's either of an individual child in the family, and it kind of encapsulates their passions at this stage of their life, their unique memories, their childhood, so that when they grow up, they can look back on these beautiful memories, and always have that childhood spirit and their child's self to look back onto and to appreciate. Yes. And that actually started because my mum, once I had made a few of these portraits for Save a Child's Heart and for a few other people, my mum said, I'd love if you would make one of your childhood and my 3 kids, so me and my 2 sisters, and all of our memories and all of our unique special moments in our childhood. And I absolutely love the idea, so thanks, Mum. And I made something for my home, which she absolutely loved. I then made a website and posted all those paintings on the website, and that got a bit of a good response, also through Instagram. And I realized I think I had honed into what I found as my style and what I wanted to do for families, and to be able to hold on to their memories.
I find it fascinating that from such a young age, you've always held on to your childhood. We all do it differently. I do it through bike riding.
Oh, yeah.
And you do it through art. So, and do you use water paints? Do you use acrylics? What do you generally use?
I use a lot of mixed media. So I use, mainly at the moment, I'm using acrylics as like my base paintings, but I use a lot of oil pastels. Sometimes I bring in materials, so families will give me special keepsakes, memories, newspapers of certain dates, photos.
Oh,
So it can be embedded with all sorts of mixed media.
stunning.
It depends, yeah, I do a range of different styles.
So Mum's wisdom asked you to do a painting of your own family, which I think is, of course, everyone would dream of having one of those of their children. How did you take it from getting orders from family and friends to taking it out to the wider world?
Great question. So it kind of happened, I had figured out what my niche was, and as I said, it was the childhood portraiture, the memories, immortalizing these beautiful family moments for my own family. So now I had discovered the niche, but I definitely didn't have my audience and the people that was gonna hopefully buy my art. So because my mum loved it, I was like, great, my mum loves it. But again, they're your mum, so my mum loves everything that I do. I needed to check that there would be enough appeal to the wider audience and also get people to see my art. So I predominantly used Instagram, and with Instagram, you know, it is quite tough to get followers, especially, you know, there's so many accounts out there. And I had a few families and friends and those kind of people following me. All my friends and community were super, super supportive, but I needed to get beyond that. I needed to reach different families, go beyond the community to really see if I could make a career and really make a living out of what I was doing. And I think also being a super creative person, both in painting, but also just in the way maybe I think, I had to think outside the box, and I don't have any kind of experience in marketing. And I was like, how could I get my painting in front of, I guess, my dream audience? And that's when I kind of had the thought to approach being on Instagram and following influencers. I thought if I approach an influencer who's made a big impact on my life, who I appreciate, and who also has a beautiful relationship with her son and her family, hopefully she would value something like this, you know, very strongly. So yes. I decided I put in a lot of effort and time into making this beautiful large-scale painting for her, hoping that she would appreciate it. And thank God, like, that worked out really, really well. I connected with her. She absolutely loved the piece. And then she was able to promote me to her audience, which was over 1.5 million people. So that was the exposure that I really, really needed. And then thank God through that, it kind of snowballed, and her friends reached out to other people, and then those people saw it. And slowly I realized I found my niche, and I also then found my dream audience. And that's I guess, made me able to now ship internationally. I've got a wait list of over about 8 months at the moment. So it's really a dream come true, going from making one painting for my mum and a few for my community and family and friends to making it, I guess, for the wider world and people who value what I do.
Can we ask who that influencer was?
We can. It was Steph Smith.
Okay.
She has a health and fitness app, which I was a part of, and
so
she lives in Melbourne.
Oh, she lives in Melbourne. But from her audience, you got worldwide orders because of the following that she has is so broad.
Exactly. Yeah, really big audience.
Okay, how did you know what to charge once those orders started to come in?
It's a great question. I think over time, over making paintings and starting at a lower price, I realized that I really had to value what I was doing. And because I value and put so much love and work, I guess, into it, that ultimately, I guess, reflects with my buyers and my audience and clientele. And yeah, I guess I just looked at things like materials, time, how long it takes me, the amount of people, the amount of detail in the portraits, and really just worked it out based off that. But I really did struggle in the beginning to work out what I could charge. But naturally also with demand, I was able to up my prices. So when things, you know, because I can't make so many paintings within a year, I can only make a certain amount.
Yes.
I realized like I could charge more than when it was a smaller scale painting and I could do many. So yes. Demand and increase and, you know, that kind of thing.
I asked you to bring some in today, but you said to me, they're too big. I can't. Do you always do big paintings?
Predominantly, yes. I love working at a large scale. I just love that impact of a huge painting on a wall. So I'd say, yeah, most of my pieces are at least over 1 meter by 1 meter. I can do smaller scale artworks, but definitely predominantly focus on really, really large scale paintings.
And that is how your brain works in the bigger format?
I think I've trained my brain to work that way. I always, when I was little, my whole sketchbook is just filled with little drawings, and also naturally it's easier to draw in a small space. But now that I have a studio and I have a space where I can work at a really large scale,
Yes.
I'm like, why not? It's fun.
Fantastic. Have you got several easels? So you get a bit bored with this one, you move to this one while you're waiting for this to dry, perhaps? How does it work?
Yeah. So I do work on now. I used to work on one at a time when I was in a small space, but now that I can work on a few, I do have multiple easels going at once.
Yes.
I'm also really good at starting something, but not so good at finishing it. So I really love starting a painting, and then I'm like, okay, I'm bored, I want to move on to the next one. But obviously, because I do have that time pressure and I've told the client it will be ready by X, that pushes me to get the job done and finish the painting, which is important that I have that, because I think if I look at my previous sketchbooks, I started all these beautiful drawings, but I didn't necessarily finish them. But now I have reason to finish them.
That's very good. In terms of getting this business started, that was such a clever idea to approach an influencer, and it worked well for you. What other ways have you been building up your business?
Some other ways and things that I've done. I think discipline is a main one. So I think a lot of creatives are, you work on it when you feel like it, when you've got the inspiration, when you feel motivated.
Yes.
But what I realized quickly was, in order to actually make a living and turn it into a 9 to 5, I had to ditch that idea of when you feel inspired and motivated, that's when you work. I had to just be like, I'm going in, I'm going to start something, as I said, within that time of 9 to 5 during the week. And then slowly, by doing more and more things and having that discipline and just being able to action items that I guess you want to slowly tick off, you gain that confidence, the momentum, and the motivation naturally comes as you see those things happening. And I think also goals are a huge one for me.
Yes.
I've always been someone who writes my goals at the end of the year, and all the things that I want to achieve for that year. So I definitely, in terms of advice to other artists and people starting out, I'd say know exactly what you want. Have a really, really clear vision.
Yes.
Have set goals in the future, but also have little bite-sized things that you can do today to get you there, whether that's, signing up with Wix and starting a website design, or just making the name of your Instagram account, or just small little steps that will eventually get you there.
Do you have any parting messages you would like to leave the social blueprinters?
Righty. I think the main thing is really believing in yourself, trusting the process, and that things do take time, but as long as you can, as I said before, have goals and slowly tick things off, you'll be able to see amazing results. And something that I believe strongly in is the idea of manifesting. And I think what that really comes down to is belief in yourself, but also belief in the universe, and that things will align with you. It's like the law of attraction, that what you put out, you get back. So something that I do is I create visualizations, because I'm a visual person, as you probably know. So all around my bedroom, I have my goals, but in visual forms of things that I want to achieve, that I think I can achieve, and I can see it in front of me. And then that makes it so tangible and real. And I think if you can imagine something so strongly that you'll trick your brain almost into thinking that it's real and that it can happen, it's just a matter of time before it happens. So self-belief, I think, is really the number one thing that you got to get and master. And it's hard, and you've got to stay positive through the tough times, and keep on remembering that you can do it, and find those little proofs and breadcrumbs along the way, and keep going, and it'll happen.
Small steps.
And
believing in yourself, and listening and pursuing.
Yeah, listening to yourself. That's a huge one.
Well done, Meg. It's so impressive. It's been lovely to get to hear your story from the ground up. And hopefully it inspires you, social blueprinters. So thank you very much, Meg Duhamel, for coming along.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you. All the best.
You too.
Thanks.